Alright guys, Tay here, and I'm just bringing you a little information from my newest draft league. It's the UPA. I will be recording this, and I'm about to go through a draft breakdown. Alright, so to start things off, it's your standard GPA. 5 tiers, you get 2 tier 3s, your Mega, and then your 4 free agents. Free is a little misleading because you're going to do a point buy for them, and the point buy is of course 400 points. But we came off with a really strong team. We came off with a lot of really high tier picks right off the bat. We didn't get too much sniped in the higher up tiers. A lot of our lower stuff got grabbed before we can get our hands on it. But I feel really strong. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of defensive power, a lot of flex picks. But it is gonna be on Showdown, which means I can go ahead and show you what I've got. Now, right now, I'm gonna go ahead and make a new team. It's gonna be OU. Let's go ahead and lead off with our first pick, which was Skarmory. Now, Skarmory is an incredibly strong Pokemon. It's tier 1. It is probably the best hazard set and remover in the game. With its phenomenal steel flying typing, it's that great defensive stat. It's got decent speed. There's really not a lot you can go wrong with in Skarmory. It can set its own rocks, it can set spikes, it's got defog, it's got steel wing for all those really annoying rock types that want to set up their own rocks, and even some of those awkward psychic types that can bring it in. When I run Skarmory, I'm probably going to be running it with a Rocky Helmet, lefties, because this guy's basically just going to be my Rock Fogger, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted a really good hazard setter and defogger right off the bat. Um, kind of prevent myself from being limited by what's left. And you're going to see a big trend with a lot of the picks I did because I want to get a lot of the weaknesses towards my hazards out of the way first because I don't want to be the guy that has rocks on the field, double spikes, and double toxic spikes because that'll just shut down any team you've got. But our second pick, round 2, Chandelure. This is my Flash Firemon. It's a great defensive foil for the Skarmory if somebody wants to shut me down on my hazards or shut down the defogger. Chandelure is great. It comes with Flash Fire. It's a great Scarfer. It's a brutal special attacker. And if you get the right speed tier opponent, you can just throw a Specs on this thing and watch it throw down one-shots. With its Ghost Fire typing, it comes with a lot of weaknesses. But I think I covered those really well with my draft, and he's just excuse me, he's a wonderful pick to throw down in a league like this. Not too much to say on it. It's got Will-O-the-Wisp, it's got Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, your typical offensive special attacker. Now, our third pick was actually our Mega. We wanted to grab this before anybody else could snipe it from us. We went for the Mega Latios. Because what I saw is that we didn't have a lot of offensive power, and Mega Latios definitely brings that to the table. It has a massive special attack, really good bulk. It's got some speed, not infinite speed, but it's really decent. And if we have to, we could run this guy physical. It kind of blindside a lot of guys. Really, I just wanted a Mega that I knew I could rely on, that would complement my core, and I needed an offensive threat right off the bat because a lot of these really big picks that were offensive, really hitting hard, were going, and I wanted a Pokemon that I honestly don't use often. I own Alpha Sapphire, and the Latios combo, I never used. I found them underwhelming in the games, and that never really translated for me to the battle spot. So, I kind of just ignored them. And now I'm doing a little research. I'm watching a lot of videos. I saw A-Drive, which is base Latias, do a lot of work in one of his drafts. And I wanted to see what I could do with this guy. He's Dragon Psychic. He's going to be brutal. He's going to be another great foil for Skarmory against those fighting types. And if Chandelure ever gets threatened out by some ground type moves, I've got Levitate on this guy, and I'm going to be able to swap in and out. These guys are a great defensive core. They're also a good offensive flex pick. If you can get the right switch-ins on these guys, they can do so much work. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our fourth pick, which is, in fact, the God tier ice type, the king of the ice types, Mamoswine. Now, you see Mamoswine all the time in drafts. It gets priority ice move. It's basically your Garchomp Dragon Killer. There's not a lot of things that this guy's afraid of with that ice ground typing. He does have plenty of weaknesses. He's got respectable bulk. It's not phenomenal, but he's got a big attack stat. He's got priority. He can set rocks, and this guy is just going to do so much work on those teams that really wanted to stack big offensive threats. Like Garchomp, I'm going to love having this guy around. And you're going to see that he's not my only option to take out Pokemon like Garchomp. Like even Scarfchomp's going to have to think 2 or 3 times before coming in on this guy. And just having him in the wings is going to force people to try to play around my style rather than bringing their own. And I really like the idea of taking the initiative into a battle. Now for our 5th pick, we actually picked up another priority ice user, and that is Donphan. Now Donphan is really great because he's another spinner, he's another hazard mover in case I don't want to bring Skarmory, or Skarmory's a bad pick, or Skarmory just gets one shot because I got really cocky. Donphan, kind of the same excuse me, the same situation as Mamoswine. Big hitter, decent bulk, a lot slower though, lower stat total. He gets another different moveset. He has a slightly different role. He's a pure ground type, meaning he's weak to ice, water, grass. But you don't see a lot of grass in draft leagues. Ice is usually only there to handle dragons, and people like to hold on to their ice types until dragons come out. And while water types are really, really common, they're pretty easy to work around. And one of my later picks is actually a really good foil. Like I have a lot of synergies between 2 or 3 Mons. My plan is to do like a encapsulation method where I've got these small sets of Pokemon that really complement each other, and then I'll throw 2 or 3 complementary sets together to make a team of 6. And now it's going to be really awkward, particularly in the mid game of a lot of battles. But right now, these 5 alone would make an excellent team to just run into a battle with. But I do have an ice type weakness that I haven't really covered very well. I mean, Chandeler's not exactly super bulky, so I don't really want to be throwing them into a really solid ice type attack. But what I've got a water type weakness. But I'll handle those later. Now our 6th Pokemon is going to be a lot of people's favorite, and if I can type, there we go. We've got Sylveon. Now everyone's seen this guy. Everyone knows what he does. He's got the Pixelate. He's got really, really solid bulk. He's not the best on the speed tier, but he's not meant to be. He's a great wall, does a lot of damage, does so much work, and those people that want to bring those dragons, who want to set up the D-Dance, and they want to throw the Outrage down and just get a late game sweep, Sylveon shuts them down hard. Sylveon's one of those most scary berry types in the game, and there's almost nothing anybody can do about it. And I'm actually out of room because Showdown. Alright, so our 7th pick is going to actually be another fairy type, and it's going to be Togekiss. A little more bulky, a little more solid bulk, and it's I'm hoping to bring this guy as a flincher, Flinchkiss. Also as another defogger. Like I said, I really don't want to be the guy that gets hazard set. I've got a couple hazard setters of my own. I really don't think anybody's really planning to make a hazards-based team, but every little bit of chip damage helps, and the idea that I have so much to prevent it is going to dissuade so many people from trying it all, and that means I can bring out a lot of surprise picks. Togekiss gets some access to some really, really good moves. Air Slash for flinch. Flamethrower. With Serene Grace, it's so easy to get a burn off. It's so easy to get paralysis, those flinches. It's just a really annoying Pokemon to deal with, and it's very bulky, very solid. It's very flying type, doesn't give it any 4 times weaknesses. But I do have to watch out for the poison types. I have to watch out for toxic, excuse me, and some steel typings. But a lot of those really aren't super big threats. Now, we're moving out of the big competitive picks into more flexible picks that I basically use just to fill out my team. I use a lot of my big buys really early on, but I still have a really big weakness to cover for, and that's where Lantern comes in with Volt Absorb and Water Absorb. It basically completely negates whatever weakness I'm really going up against. I don't really have an electric type weakness, but Skarmory is going to suffer a little bit from it. Lantern itself, Togekiss, Volt Absorb is going to be great for when I go up against the Rotoms. Um, Rotom Wash specifically loves to run Volt Switch Hydro Pump, and if I've got a Lantern on the field, they're going to be really scared of bringing either of those out. And Lantern's very, very bulky with that HP stat, decent special defense, and you get a defensive nature on it and some investment, and it's going to take quite a few hits. I've actually seen a lot of Assault Vests do a lot of work. It gets access to your standard water, electric move pool. It also gets access to some bug moves. It gets access to some psychic type moves. And this guy is actually, like when I saw him, I really hoped he wasn't going to get sniped earlier on, even though he's a very low tier pick, a very niche pick. I actually made this guy one of my Z move captains, and he's going to be my primary situational threat pick. So this guy is going to be basically my really big answer to the Rotoms. Like I'm really worried about Scarf Trick Pokemon coming in and trying to shut me down, but Lantern's going to really make people afraid of that. Lantern's not the best if you give it a little speed, but if you're running an offensive Lantern into what you think is going to be a Trick Scarfer, you can actually see Lantern doing a lot of work, especially when you go into a Rotom who immediately tricks a Scarf onto you and then eats the hit by Volt switches onto you, and you've got the Volt Absorb, of course, or you've got the Water Absorb. So you're back at full health, you've got a ton of speed, and now you're going to hit really hard on whatever comes in next, even if it's a direct counter. The only problem is if you lock yourself into an Electric type move and they have a Ground type, you're kind of just going to have to pull your Lantern out. But I really can't sell this Pokemon enough. I'm super glad to get it, even though it was very, very low on my list as my 8th pick. And we're going to just move on to another Pokemon I'm really happy to have because I kind of have an Ice type weakness. Now, we grabbed Hitmonlee. Very, very solid Pokemon. Very good, very strong in that special defense, which a lot of Ice types are mixed, can run either special or physical. And his physical defense isn't great, but he's got a good attack stat, a medium speed tier, not really bulky in the slightest, but he does get access to a lot of really good moves. And I really just needed to fill out my Ice type weakness. I needed something that was going to hit Ice type super effective almost constantly. I needed a normal type answer. I also needed just some more solid physical offense. I've got a ton of special attackers. I've got a ton of flex picks. I've got a lot of secondary effect users. And what I really wanted was Min Xiao, but I kind of misjudged my point buy, and I couldn't get him. And Hitmonlee honestly does mostly the same job. He's just a little bit more bulky, does a little bit more physically, and he's a little slower. Now we're moving into my last 2 picks, and these guys really, really were just flex picks. I grabbed the Kanto Raichu, tons of speed, big physical, mixed attacker. He can run. He's got the access. He's got static and lightning rod, both really good. Both actually is another answer to the Rotoms. Excuse me. Oh, that's good water. All right. And you've seen a lot of. I've seen a lot of Raichus on the battle spot. I've seen a lot of Raichus in VGC. I've actually seen quite a few Raichus on Showdown on the rare cases I want to get into a 40 turn stall because I got an advantage. And the enemy did not want to give it up. He gets access to things like Nuzzle, Electro Ball, Agility. This guy is a great mid-game Pokemon pick. It's not something you throw out to eat a hit. It's not something you bring in unless you're guaranteeing that you're going to eat an Electric type move. Like if you see a Rotom, you see the Rotom's in a bad spot, and it's going to try to U-turn out for momentum. Raichu's not bad because more often than not, Rotoms run Volt Switch. And if you're bringing that Lightning Rod ability, you're going to boost your special attack, making you a lot more dangerous. Because whatever they bring in is probably going to be a ground type. And this guy does get access to some really nice niche cover moves for his one weakness, which is the ground typing. And you run this guy with an air balloon, he gets a little annoying. Now for my final pick, we did need a poison type. We have nothing to handle fairies. We have nothing to take care of the toxic spike stacks. And I really didn't have the points to go for anything really big. Toxapeck was already taken. Hydreigon was already taken. So those were my earlier poison picks. They got sniped before I could get my hands on them. And by the time I got around to being like, crap, I really need a poison type to really round out my team against those fairies, to get rid of those toxic stackers, to switch into those really stally Pokemon like Blissey. I went ahead and grabbed Arbok. He's a medium wall, he's got decent bulk, a physical attack stat, he gets access to all your standard poison type moves, he also can stack stockpiles, he gets the Intimidate ability, which is really good for bringing into physical attackers if you want to run him particularly special defensive. And while he's got some coverage moves, they're not the best. Really, this guy's here to threaten fairies and to absorb toxic spikes. I don't plan to bring him every single match, but when I know I'm going to go up against a toxic setter, when I'm going to be going up against someone who just flat out doesn't want to deal with a poison type, this is what I'm going to bring. He's got a lower medium speed tier, but a lot of the tanks or walls that I'm going to be running into are going to be in the same tier or lower, which means I'll have a lot of threat on these guys, especially from the idea of a 100% accurate toxic. And this guy is just going to be, as a last pick, I'm really happy with him. I think my team's really solid. I think I've got a lot of options. And honestly, I really think I'm going to bring it hard. I'm not the highest power rating pick in the league. I definitely don't have some of the biggest threats in the league. I'm going to be honest with that. These 11 guys, I've got some huge heavy hitters. Skarmory. Skarmory was a couple other people's first round pick. I was fourth pick. I was really happy to get him. And he made a lot of people nervous that had planned on setting hazard teams. Mamoswine scared a lot of the people who wanted Garchomp, who wanted Dragonite. And then Donphan to back it up, just in case I don't feel real secure in bringing Mamoswine. Or if I feel like there's going to be a particularly large number of rocks or spike setters, I've got the rapid spin option. Basically, we've got 4 or 5, I want to say 5 hazard removers. We've got, I want to say 3 hazard setters. We've got a lot of immunities. We've got a lot of really good switch-ins and flex values. We don't have a lot of momentum setters. We don't have a lot of U-turners. We don't have a lot of volt switchers. And that's fine. It means people are basically going to have a little bit of a momentum creep on us. But our picks are really strong, particularly our first 6 picks. While our later 5 were kind of just filler. Our filler is good filler. It's basically the filler from Blue Exorcist, the anime. It has some relevance to what the team needs, but if I have to do without it, I can. And that's basically what I wanted. I didn't want one of these teams where I got 3 or 4 super high tier picks, spent all my points on them, and then I kind of just sprinkled whatever the hell happens to be available after the fact. And again, we're going against the Weaviles week 1. I'm actually going to do a team builder pretty much right after I'm done recording this. And I'll be uploading that. So if anybody wants to watch that, like, subscribe, show a comment telling me I'm an idiot because of this pick or that pick. And I'm going to see you guys in the league.